Hello guys, Derashi here. After quite a bit of a hiatus, but here I am back again. We have PoE point 3 coming out right behind the corner. And I have to say, Jonathan and the team really are cooking with this one. And I'm very happy to see that they took a lot of feedback that we were giving them on the forums, even though it was laced with a lot of toxicity. But they did cover most of the biggest problems that PoE 2 was facing at the time, and I'm very excited to go over this. The entire reveal video is like 1 hour. I wanna make it a bit faster so you don't have to watch the entire thing. One of the biggest changes that we have is they finally gonna fix the trading. The trading was one of the biggest nightmares because of all of the price fixers, people who are just genuinely too lazy to go and sell you the item because, oh man, God forbid I have to leave my map to sell you something for 1 exalt. But finally, these days are over. The solution to the problem is now everyone was gonna have an NPC in their hideout that's gonna have stash tabs with all the items that you're trying to sell, and someone can just find your item on the website, click secure item, which then teleports you to their hideout, you talk to the NPC, and boom, you buy item. It's so simple, right? Obviously, every transaction like this costs a bit of gold because it's like an anti-botting measure, really. And it opens the market so much more because even if someone is offline, you can still buy their items. So now on the website, you don't have to worry that, oh man, there's such a good item, but the guy is offline, guess I'll never get it. Now you can get it even if they're offline. It's so good for the game. And we will see if it has any downsides because I can imagine it might end up problematic. It's a new feature, so I can imagine that some items might disappear sometimes here and there, but overall I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a huge positive addition to the game. Many people also were complaining that moving through the campaign is way too slow because there's not enough movement speed in the game, and the devs didn't want to give in because then the combat becomes too easy to avoid. So we got a sprint mechanic, which you activate by holding the dodge roll button, and then you sprint. It doesn't have limits, how long can you use it? It's pretty nice, you can just run around. The only problem is when you take damage, you can get heavy stunned and just fall over and probably die. Kinda like what happens when you ride the dodo. But it's fine, I like the way it's implemented, because instead of just being kinda there and you can use it whenever, it has some gameplay to it. For example, if you're playing an evasion build, you can consider sprinting in combat because obviously you don't get hit as often, so maybe there's some fun things you can kinda do with the way it's implemented. And speaking of the campaign, we now have 4 acts. We get one extra act that continues the story after we get the third act. And as you can imagine, 4 acts is a bit too long to run the campaign twice on cruel difficulty. So end results is we have 4 acts, and after that we get 3 side stories that will get us to around level 65 where we get into the maps. No more repetitive campaign where you run normal and cruel difficulty twice. The only thing that comes to my mind is you get some permanent bonuses across the campaign. So will we get all of the bonuses within the 4 acts, or are we gonna get some of the bonuses in the side stories? And also now we will have to figure out where are the new bonuses if they are moved. So we'll find out soon enough, but it's nice to see that we are getting some extra acts in. Many people were looking forward to it, and I'm very happy to see it as well. On the video, they mentioned some new skills. Support gems will now have levels, which means you have like Brutality 1, 2 and 3, where they get better stats and the final version has some extra effect on top of it. At least the ones that were shown in the video had. There are also some changes in the passive tree, as well as ascendancies, but they're just slightly shown in the video, so we will have to wait for the patch notes to get deep into this. We get a big keystone that allows you to pretty much play unarmed, the Hollow Palm, which pretty much means you can use any attack that you would use with the quarter staff, but now you just fist people. I've seen there are new unique gloves that give you extra lightning damage, and whenever you punch people, they get hit by lightning from the sky. So there's something to look forward to it. Give it some love, give it some try. Obviously, we need to test it for the game full release. Evasion was deemed the worst defense in the game, and the solution for the problem is adding the deflect mechanic to the game. I don't know how easy or hard it's gonna be to stack it, but you can get it all the way up to 100% chance, which is whenever you get hit it always works, and it makes you take 40% less damage. And 40% less damage taken is actually quite an amount, to be honest. unless you run some very crazy high levels of armor against some bigger hits, it's pretty much same reduction as running armor build. Evasion builds still suffer a lot because stacking HP is very hard on evasion builds. That's the biggest downside. That's why we always mix it with energy shield, because the life pool otherwise is just not high enough to take those bigger hits. And also we get fixes to armor. Armor still kinda suffers from the issue to make armor effective. You need a lot of it, and getting big amounts of armor is not exactly that easy to do. There are some cheeky tools that you can experiment with. I'll be making build that's gonna be armor based, and I have some secret technology. I don't think anyone noticed it yet. I was planning to use it on 0.2, but the meta was pretty stale, the market was dead, so I decided to postpone it for this league. But what they did is they added modifiers to armor items, which make percentage of your armor apply to elemental damage, which is a big win. I'm definitely gonna be testing armor a lot this league. Make sure to check my build guides that will be coming in the future. Hehe. And these are like all of the big changes, I would say. Now we're gonna talk about the smaller ones. Banner skills. I don't know if many people are using banners. I personally never did. But now they're gonna be stronger. They do not disappear after you leave the ring. But instead of Valor, now they can only be activated with Glory. And Valor is getting completely removed from the game. I don't know how I like this change. I think in the future we're gonna have this changed again. Also, there are some unique items that correlate with Valor, so I think all of them will have to be slightly reworked because of that change. And we will see what they do with that. Maybe there are some new options coming soon that would make it fun. Now some information for the mage enjoyers. They want Elementalist to be kind of a mage that can swap between different elements and make it seamless and doesn't feel bad. So having specific curses for each element was not working with that vision. So now instead of having the specific curses, we're just gonna get one, which is Elemental Weakness, and it's gonna affect all 3 elements. I don't know if I like that change. I think I like it more in PoE 1, where you have all 3 specific curses be quite strong. And then Elemental Weakness is all 3 of them, but weaker. And I think we should adapt the exactly same outcome here. The gem that they showed on the video was like minus 46% to all elemental resistances. It seems like quite a lot, no? I would say it's quite a lot, but we'll see how that plays out. Also, some spells will be now dropping elemental infusions. I'm not sure if that's like elementalist thing only or like global. But for example, you can drop Frost Bomb. Frost Bomb explodes. You pick up Cold Infusion, and now when you cast Spark, it becomes Frost Spark that shoots in Ice Nova type of way. And there's like many spells that can interact with those infusions. Some spells generate them, some spells use the infusions. I've seen you can do Firestorm, which is pretty much just raining all 3 elements at once, and it's gonna be quite crazy. For all mage enjoyers, you're gonna have the biggest disco league ever. All the colors gonna be shining on the screen. And now one of my favorites, like as I said, I'm not really a mage type of player, but they make a keystone that makes your fire spells and ignites do chaos damage. And the best part of it is that all fire spells become purple. That's so cool. I just wish we had some good fire spells in the game that are not trash. I wish there was some new fire spell and I could just make an ignite build out of it. Now I can go around just casting Amaterasu on everyone like a fucking Naruto loving weep. Also, just like Jonathan was mentioning in one of the upcoming changes in the future video, they were considering lowering attributes requirement for the skills, and they actually do. And they lowered the requirements by about like 20-25%. And now we finally get our first official league in PoE 2. If you never played in a league on PoE, it's pretty much exactly what we already had with like the Wild Hunt and all that stuff. But now we're probably gonna get some challenges to do. And after beating enough challenges, you're gonna get some free cosmetics, and it's like pretty much 40 challenges every league. At least if they follow the same example as PoE 1. The mechanic is pretty much what Abyss is in PoE 1. I'm not gonna go over the details, you can watch the original video, which is gonna be linked in the description, around minute 35. And the important part is we're gonna get some currencies, which allows you to add Veiled modifier to the item. And then in the location called Well of Souls, you can pretty much yeet the item into the Vortex of Souls at the bottom. Yeet! And then the beast brings it back to you, yara yara. And then you choose 1 out of 3 randomly chosen modifiers. They can range from just your average modifiers that you get on items every day, or you can get some special modifiers that can only be achieved this way. Examples in the video were, for example, +1 limit to ballistas on a crossbow, or plus spirit on staff, which might be quite useful if you're using many spirit gems. You can also modify waystones this way to get some extra challenge and more loot. Through this mechanic you can also get some new socketable jewels. They are pretty strong and you can have only one at a time, but they're probably gonna be really OP. And we're also gonna have jewels for the passive tree that will change the nodes around it, because changing the tree, adding some new never seen before modifiers can open options for builds that you never had before. And now we can talk about the endgame. We're gonna have 25 new maps in the endgame. Now both suffixes and prefixes will be making maps both harder and have better loot. And now in terms of all the pinnacle content. Every pinnacle boss tree will now have a chance for you to unlock 2 first points by doing some sort of a quest across the maps, without having to actually fight the boss yet. And the keys to enter those bosses are now gone, and splinters are gonna be only thing we actually have, and the difficulty of encounter is gonna be based on the cost of entry. So first fight is 50, second is 75, and the third one is 100. So now, if you want to run an easier version, you don't have to feel bad because you only use half of the splinters instead of the entire key, right, like you used to. And it also makes you access the first fights earlier, which makes the progression a bit more smooth. When it comes to Arbiter of Ash, it only has 2 difficulties. The first difficulty is exactly same as it was before. You collect all 3 pieces from the citadels, you go fight them, boom, clap the loser, and that's kinda how it goes. And then you can also fight Uber Arbiter of Ash, and to do that you need to max out the boss tree, so you can make the citadels as hard as possible, and then you can drop the Calamity pieces of the encounter, and by collecting those 3 Uber keys, you're gonna fight an Uber Arbiter. They also mentioned that getting to like level 90 should be a little bit faster, a little bit more smooth, which is nice, kinda more like PoE 1. And we also have some changes for crafting. And this time it actually is some extra crafting, unlike the previous times when they just slapped something and called it crafting, even though it really wasn't. So now the essences will have more tiers than before, and they will work essentially as regal orbs, which means you have a blue item, you put the essence on it, it becomes yellow, and gives you the guaranteed modifier that each essence has. That's nice because during the leveling you can just kinda use those essences to upgrade your gear a little bit to fix the problems that your build is currently facing. And then the highest tier, which I think was called Perfect, will work just like Chaos Orb, which means you're gonna remove one of the modifiers on the item, and then you get the guaranteed one of each corresponding essence. And now the change that I'm kinda shocked to see, but all of the crafting currencies, transmutation orbs, augmentation orbs, all of that will come in tiers. And every tier will guarantee that the roll that they're gonna add to the item will be at least to some degree high roll in terms of tier. So if you have the highest tier of transmutation orb, you're just gonna get like, let's say, tier 6 health on item minimum or something, right? Which I like the idea crafting wise, but I can only imagine how much clutter it's gonna be if someone, God forbid, does not have the currency stashed up. Like, I'm sorry, but if you don't have currency stashed up and you get all of those new things now, you're gonna fucking drown. God forbid, there's gonna be free weekend when the league release for all the new people who want to try the game. If someone is gonna nerd it out and get to kind of endgame, they're gonna fucking drown. I'm telling you, they will be drowning. Next change for the crafting is now that you're gonna have a chance to drop exceptional items, which is pretty much just white item drop, that will have some special quality to it. For example, I think weapons and the armors will have a chance to exceed 20% quality. They're just gonna drop like, let's say, 28, 30% quality, which obviously makes them already better baseline than average weapon. Or they can get an extra socket on them, which then can still be valed on top of it for another +1. Which means that in some cases you can have a wand that has 3 sockets, you can have a staff with 4 sockets. It's probably gonna be quite a crazy league for people who like crafting items. We also get some new omens for crafting. I think the most important one is the one that allows you to create sanctified items with a divine orb. Pretty much you activate the omen, you use divine orb on the item, and it changes its rolls to be between 80% to 120% of its values. It kind of works like valuing a unique item to get some rolls above or like below normal range. And afterwards they cannot be crafted anymore, obviously. So make sure that you sanctify the item when you're already done editing it in any way. And that's pretty much gonna be it for the summary of this long video. As I said, I would still suggest watching it. Link is in the description. Thanks for watching, and if you watched till the end, you might wanna consider leaving a like and subscription so you do not miss out on my upcoming builds. And see you in the next one.